Hey everyone, Daz here, owner of Athletic Performance Academy, and I wanted to start off by asking you a question. Have you ever felt so passionate about a topic only to have your ideas rejected by the very people that you're trying to help? Well, that's happened throughout my career. You see, for as long as I've been coaching, I've been passionately in favor of the benefits of resistance training for improving athletic performance in children. And yet, usually every year, I would be told by a coach or a parent that they didn't want their player or child lifting weights. And usually they'd come up with all sorts of kind of reasons why they didn't want to do it. Things like it was going to stunt their growth, it was going to damage their bones, it was going to slow them down, and all kinds of other perpetuated myths that have come from misrepresentation of the science or from outdated research. Now, for the most part in my career, I was of the opinion that, listen, I'm not going to win this battle, but if I can win the war, and if the majority of my athletes can be lifting weights, then I'm going to be happy. And for most of my career, I went around the situation with that kind of attitude. But then something changed all that. A child under my care hurt their back, and they reported that the pain came about shortly after finishing the weight session. Now, long story short, the parents accused me of injuring their child, and at one point they were going to write a formal complaint to both the tennis academy and to the national governing body, and at one point I even thought they were going to sue me. So it turned out that there was actually an underlying back condition that was not originally detected from the medical assessment. So probably they were going to hurt themselves one way or the other, whether that was playing sport or whether it was in the gym. And it just was unfortunate that the triggering event was the weight training they were doing that day. I mean, I was fairly certain that we hadn't done anything that was going to be injurious because they'd been lifting similar weights for over 6 months prior to that with no symptoms. But it just kind of made me realize that I was at a crossroads in my career where potentially, it wasn't fun to have my reputation be dragged through the mud like that, and I was going to have to consider the possibility that it wasn't going to be worth it to keep pushing forward with my passionate beliefs. Or the alternative was going to be that I was going to carry on, but I was going to need to have a much stronger position in which to educate parents and coaches from. Now, coincidentally, at the same time that this was all going on, I had the opportunity to listen to Dr. Duncan French present at the UKCA conference on the research that he'd been doing with mixed martial artists and the UFC. Now, if you don't know anything about fighting-based sports, they have a long culture. I mean, just think about it. For as long as we've had civilization, we've had wars, and wars have needed soldiers, and soldiers needed to be fit to fight. So, he was going into a culture of thousands of years of tradition, and to be fair, they haven't always been well known for adopting some more modern approaches like resistance training. So he was showing us some of the science that he was using to educate the coaches and the athletes about the benefits of some more modern approaches, including resistance training. And it just kind of gave me that epiphany, and a light bulb moment came up. And it also reminded me of my favourite film with Matt Damon in The Martian, where he says, "In the face of overwhelming odds, I'm left with only one option. That's the science that what out of this." So I really started to think I need to use science. I need to get back to the basics, and I need to present the science in a simple way that's easy to understand, but also I need to be able to tackle it in a very detailed way so that I can make sure that I have evidence to unpick each of the different myths one at a time. It wasn't going to be good enough to have a generic position on how strength training benefits athletic performance. I needed to tackle all of those myths individually. So I've simplified the science, I've identified the best journals to show parents and coaches, and I've shattered the myths of the dangers about weight training. And when I got started, I just wanted to convince one person that lifting weights is safe. And that was my tennis director, because the tennis director had the most influence over all the parents and all the coaches. And I knew if I could just convince him that lifting weights was safe, then my company would be in a lot better position. So I guess the question I have for you is, what would it do for you if with this training you could convince just one person? How would that affect your business? And as I leave you with that question, I just want to finish by saying thank you so much for trusting APA for your coach education. And if you're interested in moving forward and implementing the Force Hacks for Strength Coaches training into your business, then I'd like to offer you a very special presentation only price of just £127. So I look forward to hearing from you, and I'm looking forward to welcome you into my community of Force Hackers. Thank you so much for listening.